Mia, we are on live.
So
So
good.
I have received so much feedback from this episode, like next level feedback. And
Nice.
it one thing that I've noticed is that it really helped women open up about their forms of trauma that they didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
And so before we start off and
Yeah.
we really dive in, can you please
Yeah.
introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Mia Hewett, and I'm really known as like the awakened entrepreneur. I invented a methodology, a technology called the aligned intelligence. And it's a method that is an exact formula. You know, everything in life, if it works, has a recipe. It's
Yeah.
like that. It's just an exact formula of how someone can no longer self-sabotage and so that they can live free to who they really are or who they were fully meant to be. And that's actually what I'm known for. And then I help them scale their businesses to 6 and 7 figures. Because once we are who we really are meant to be, we want to go make some money. So we have choices. Right?
That's right. That's right. So can you give us a brief overview of what those steps are? Like, is
Yeah.
there an acronym or what is there?
Well, actually, so like any recipe, right? Can you imagine? So I'm going to put it like this because I think it's the easiest way for our minds to get around it. But it's like if you wanted to bake an apple pie before and you had never baked an apple pie, it's not enough to just be aware that you need apples. So awareness is not enough to get a result. And
Mhm.
and our brains are not wired for this because we were taught through our entire education system that if we just memorized something, got an A on it, that we had it, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way. You don't get the result just because you know about it conceptually.
Yeah.
In life, the way it really works is you have to actually live what you know. So
Mhm.
that's like a different world, right? It's going from concept to into the world of experiencing. I always say experiences are the true knowledge
Yeah.
because that's when you start living what you know. So here's how we have to go from concept of being aware of a trauma to actually being able to live it. What has to happen is it's these pieces. We have to become first aware of it. We can't change something we're not aware of. So there is that ingredient. But then the second step, we have to clear the misunderstanding or misconception that has been in the way. So there's always a letting go process. Like feel it. If I want to go into the ocean, I've got to let go of the beach.
Yeah.
So there's always a letting go piece in between. So once you become aware, there is this process by which you need to clear the misunderstandings. I call it like separate the truth from the lie, because the
Mhm.
truth will always set you free. You can see it. Once you separate the difference, and clear the misunderstanding, you instantly pop up right inside of now your ability is then the next step is you've got to be able to go and apply that truth.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you apply the truth, so you're living what you know, you develop the skill sets of the taking the actions and the aligned actions inside of those new behaviors, you're going to have new experiences.
Yeah.
And then your results are just a byproduct of that new experiences. It's really simple, but I understand that because of our trauma, it gets complex in sorting it because our trauma and our ego wants to make us think it's way harder than it is, but it isn't. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, it
Mm,
makes total sense.
yeah.
And part of the, realizing you got to actually walk into the ocean is
Yes.
also part of acceptance, realizing that and truly
Yes.
letting go, which is
Yes.
so important. And I think so many of us, especially as moms, we go into what's familiar because now we
Yes.
have a game plan. Now we know what to expect. So we
Yes.
think, but in reality, it's this illusion of control that
Yes.
we're not necessarily set on accepting that.
Yes, and the reason is this. So I'm going to just like go back just for a second to
Mhm.
explain why we cling on to control so much.
Yes.
So every child is born whole, perfect, and complete. Not one is born with a self-esteem issue. So
Yeah.
what happens as the child grows, they grow through an emotional bond of trust. And when that trust gets broken, they experience this immense amount of shame that it is so traumatic for them that they didn't think that they were capable of surviving the emotions that they were feeling. And
Yeah.
because they didn't know how to process what they're feeling, they internalized the emotions to mean there was something wrong with them.
Yep.
So without knowing how to process the emotions, they internalized these emotions and took them on as an identity, AKA your false self or your ego.
Mm-hmm.
This leaves each person feeling in that split of all alone, abandoned, like separate, like no one gets them, which is precisely how one would describe the losing of the authentic self as
Yep.
it ceased to exist psychologically. So it's not that it really ceased to exist, but in our minds, we don't think we're that anymore. That must be, something must be wrong with that because look at what happened with that. So we take on a way to survive. Then in trying to survive, because now our emotions are not safe, we go into our head and try to figure it all out. So the form of control, the reason why people hold on so tight to control is that is what has kept them in their minds surviving for so long. So they don't want to give it up. But yet it is the greatest thing that actually hinders them. Because if you can feel this, all freedom comes from non-attachment, non-judgment, non-resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so then all control or fear
Yeah.
comes from attachment, judgment, resistance.
100% resistance. 100% attachment. Nobody wants, and that's the thing. It's, we don't know that. We know
Yeah.
familiar. We don't know. We don't know all of those other things, and that's why I loved having you on, and I loved the way you explained it. I so love the way you explained it because we can get very clinical really easy, and we lose its true meaning.
Yeah,
And one of the ladies, I have my phone here.
yeah, of course.
I have all of the questions because I want to make sure 30
of course.
minutes, I'm going to get this.
Yeah, of course.
So one of the questions was, what stood out for me was when she spoke about, we need to process our own trauma and ask ourselves, what's the truth? What's a lie? Once we have done that, we need to share our stories to break down walls. Question, how can we identify these walls if we didn't know there were walls in the first place? Oh, that's a great.
Yeah, it's such a great question. So when you go back to your original trauma, so like how we find it is, and it's in my book, but I'm gonna like just say it here so that you can hear it. When we go to our, there we are. When we go to our original trauma, what we're feeling for is like, it's not in the mind, so it's not logical. So the walls that you're looking for are really decisions that you made during the original trauma. So as an example, let me give you an example. So I have a gentleman, I'll just put it in front of you because there's a gentleman who literally has been struggling his whole life. He's was a retired teacher, wanted to find his purpose, couldn't figure it out, right? He's helped thousands of people, even people incarcerated, special needs, but he's never really felt like he could fulfill his potential. And he's done everything.
Yeah.
Done all the different things, right? So here's his trauma. This is what he didn't know. Like, so I guided him back. And it's usually not the trauma that most people think it is. Like, I want to say this because it's not logical. So most people want to go, oh, that's when this happened because it's logical, right? It's like, oh, it happened when this happened because that would be logical. But usually by the time that what you're hitting on there is usually one that's a little bit further down in the pattern, it's the same trauma. It'll just keep re-showing itself, different face, different place, different situation. But watch where this guy is. So his was actually, and this is why I'm saying around where her walls are. So inside of his was when he was 1 year old. Now people go, how would he logically remember that? Because it's not logical. So when I asked him to feel, because it's all through the emotions and in the body, it will literally come up. It will, when I ask you to go back and remember a time when you were really young and you totally, before this experience happened, you totally trusted yourself, you trusted others, and you trusted life. And then something happens and you want to feel for it. And you're going to have a feeling, and then it'll instantly throw an image to your mind. Just don't judge the image, and whatever it is, even if it's just a small, it doesn't have to be a whole scene. It could be, one guy just had like his arm pulled. His was when he was 1 year old. He's like, I heard something. That's all he said. And I said, okay, stay there. What are you hearing? Ask the little boy in you, like, what did you hear? And then he's like, oh, it's a conversation. Okay, who's talking? Oh, it's my mom and my dad. Okay, what's happening? I heard my father, I'm going to get goosebumps. I heard my father saying, I only really wanted one son. I only wanted one son. That was an older brother, and it was him, right? The little boy heard that at 1. And I said, now what? Now here comes where the walls are. So just so that she can see the answer to this. So I said, stay there. What did you make it mean? What did the little boy make it mean? What did you make it mean about you? For that to happen to you, what does that mean? He said, I must be not wanted. I must be a mistake. I must not be lovable. I must be alone. I must then try to prove that I'm good enough to my father. And then I said, what did you make it mean about other people? Because we make 3 really quick decisions during our original trauma, and they're all subconscious. We make the decisions about ourselves, others, in the world. And so he said, he also said, I must be small and stay small and stay alone. And then when I said, well, what did you make it mean about others? And he said, other people don't exist. He actually had to disconnect himself from anything. So he made everything else not exist. Now, this is fascinating, and then when I asked him, what did you make it mean about life? And he said, life is always seeking other people's approval. So now here comes his walls, right? To answer her original question. And so I said to him, what is this costing you mentally? It's exhausting to be me. What is it costing you emotionally? I'm always depressed, feeling anxious. These are all the walls. I'm always depressed, feeling anxious. Great. How does it show up physically? Oh, physically, I have an arrhythmia right now, but when I was in my 20s, I had anxiety attacks, right? Great. How does it show up in relationships? Well, relationships, I will sabotage them. I always used to think there must be someone better for me, but I can see like, this is my sense of control. Like I'm going to control all of this. And then he said, feeling like something is always missing, right? And then I said to him, well, how is this costing you financially? And then it like hit him, like, his whole life, he hasn't created the wealth or the money or, the things that he wanted, because when he doesn't feel worthy and deserving of love to receive it, then he's not going after his passion. Can you see how those are the walls?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Where it's like, we have to see the decisions first, and then the walls are just the symptoms of the decision.
I
just had to show it to you, because if I don't tell you the whole story, it's kind of like, how do you get your mind around a symptom but doesn't that all make sense? It's like, this is what happened to him, and that became his walls.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And we tend to do that, especially if we don't feel like we're worthy of being loved. We tend to do that to separate ourselves so we don't get hurt, because we don't trust that we'll be able to get hurt and come back from it. No, I see what you're saying. For those of you that are coming on, any questions you guys have, please go ahead and jump in and ask them. Let's go to the other question.
Sure.
As a mom to little ones, what can I do to protect them from such traumas? And if trauma does happen, how can I help them process it before they hit their older years?
Oh, that's such a great question.
Right?
Oh my gosh, this is like, to me, this is such a great question, because that's exactly what I would want to know.
Right?
If I was, because so the first thing I want to say is, you're not going to be able to stop the trauma. This is a very interesting thing. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. So please, everybody hearing this, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Because trauma is in the eye of the beholder. It's not in the situation. I've had, like, as an example, I helped a gentleman who was twins. They were twins, and was his trauma. His dad, his mom comes running in. They were like two, and they were both sleeping. And she goes, hurry, 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 get up, get underneath my bed. Your dad's coming home and he's drunk. And they went underneath the bed, and he was so terrified. Like, he didn't know his dad could ever hurt him. And like, he didn't really know what that meant, but he was so terrified that he blacked out. The other twin just was like, yeah, okay, whatever, went to sleep. Right? When he woke up the next day, he had made it mean that like, your parents can hurt you, they can kill you, right? And so he became the child that was the sensitive one, where he was always looking behind his his shoulder for the shoe to drop or something to happen to him. Like, he was always scared. The other twin went on to grow up and become successful. He was always struggling for money. I just want to show you this. And then we healed it, and he became the top producer in his company. But here's the reason why I'm saying that. Can you see that it wasn't in the situation? It was in the beholder. It's the way the child perceived the situation or the circumstance. So you can't stop it from happening. But here's the great news. Here's the really great news that I wish, that really somebody would have told me a long time ago, is that it's okay. You don't have to stop it. What you have to understand is how to process emotions so that when the child feels whatever they're feeling, that they're able to process what it is they're feeling. And then it doesn't stay a trauma. The reason it got trapped and took on its own identity is because they didn't know how to process their emotions. So the key to really processing, their emotions or anyone's emotions is really inside of being able to help them. And I'm going to give it to you in these are going to be simple steps, but this is the AIM method of it. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that's going to give you the results. So here's the first one. So the first way is being able to have the child look and observe the situation. So meaning, well, tell me, how did you see that? Like, what did you make that mean? Right? So the ability to look at a situation and show, be able to say whatever it made it mean. And whatever they made it mean is not wrong.
Yes. Don't invalidate it. Don't invalidate it.
Yeah.
Just listen to it.
Yeah. It's just you helping them be a neutral observer of their own emotions, but not being attached to any of it, or not going, well, don't think that way, because that's not the way. Like, it won't, whatever they made it mean is what they made it mean. And so it's not about right, wrong. It's not morality. It's about being, first, number one, being a neutral observer. Like, well, I'm curious, what did you make that mean? So from curiosity, the first thing you want to do is become a neutral observer and ask, what did you make it mean? The second piece that you want to do is, now there comes the release. So as soon as you see the observe it, now there's going to be something that needs to be released. There's always a misunderstanding or a misconception as to why it holds it in place. So then you're going to ask, well, what's the truth about that? And what's the lie about that? So that they can start to see, you mean there could be a truth and a lie? There could be a different side to it at all. And then they get to process it. So meaning they get to see, well, the truth is that, whatever they can say it really is. And then the lie is like, oh, I was making it mean that. And then you say, okay, now how do you want to choose to feel? If you could choose to feel any way you want, what would you want to choose how to feel? Oh, I would choose to feel this. And then now they're going to take actions from those new aligned behaviors, and they will get completely different results. So it's just really a matter of observing, releasing, choosing, taking new actions or aligned behaviors, and then they'll get their aligned results. Can you see how simple that can be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying, kind of like the role of the observer, being able to take yourself out, look at the situation and make an assessment, not based off of emotion. It's so important we're able to take ourselves outside of that. Otherwise, we do get lost in the distorted thinking. So
because I feel that as mothers, I can see this as fathers too, but as mothers, what happens is sometimes we take on that whatever our child is doing is
Yeah.
like us, as like it's our identity. And
Mhm.
really, it's really allowing them the dignity of their own life journey and giving them the skills and the tools to really be able to observe and sort this for themselves, because it
Yeah.
is literally life changing. So if you don't get attached to like, I can't believe you think that way, and you're my son or you're my daughter, like the attachment of thinking that they should be different because they're yours, that is where I see where people get hung up,
Yeah.
because they don't really separate. And that's, I kind of, just is just me, but for my daughter, and she's in she's in Stanford right now in medical school, and she's amazing. She's just incredible. And they're completely independent. Both my kids are really independent and successful. And I would say like the number one thing that I did right is that I really took it as this. I took it as what Khalil Gibran said about your children. And he said, your children are not your children. They come through you, but they are not from you. And I
Mhm.
took that to heart as like, okay, I'm not here to make them mini me's. I'm
Yeah.
here to just help them guide themselves and know how to do that. And that really, really helps.
Yeah, and it takes off some of the pressure, right? Like,
Totally.
so I'm not going to screw them up. I could just kind of kick back
Yeah,
and allow
yeah,
them to guide them and not be so wrapped up in all of these expectations. I love
absolutely.
that. Let's see.
Absolutely.
Oh, somebody said to what your initial. They said, "Great explanation. Thanks. I had a bingo moment. Never thought of it as a trauma, and now a lot makes sense." Yes,
That's so
yes.
awesome. Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
we have about 10 more minutes. So any questions you have, please jump on. So
Yeah.
let's see. Um, older years, having them look. So for my children, I don't want to have them live in fear.
Mm,
How do I refrain from how do I refrain from making them fearful?
mm. That's a
Right.
great question. The fear comes from the trauma. So once we have a trauma and we don't know how to process the emotions, the fear is that we're afraid of feeling.
Yeah.
Like, to feel that, like all fear, and I'm talking inside of like in third world country, like the difference between first world countries, third world countries, right? Like where we're not like fearing for our lives right now of something happening, where we're just fear of not being capable, not like,
Like,
yeah, right, fear fear of people's judgments or opinions, fear of people disagreements. All of that is really the fear of the emotions. Feel
yeah,
that, because if you could be in any conversation, in any situation, and no longer fear people's judgments of any kind, because you had the skills. We teach these skills.
yeah,
They're life skills that I believe everybody should have. But we teach these skills because that is really what it takes to not have any fear, is when you heal the trauma that you've had, because the traumas happened, the original trauma, which is what I'm talking about, which then creates the domino of the rest. Once you heal the original one, they all start to fall. It's not like you have to go and heal all these other ones. It's really healing the first one, because the first one creates the wrong problem. You
yeah,
don't know who you are anymore. You think you're your ego, and you're not. And then you become trapped in the solutions of the ego, which is only to avoid, hide, or you feel like you have to attack.
yeah,
So the key is going to be processing the trauma, healing that, and then learning the skills of how to free your mind from negative self-talk. It's a skill like that, processing the emotion. That's what we do to free the mind. I don't have a negative voice that runs anymore. And so
yeah,
what I'm talking about, to answer her question, what I like to always say is, the more awakened you become, the less of life you fear. I really don't have any fears. I know that's hard to believe, because I used to live in constant fear.
yeah. We
Um,
went through that.
but
We talked about that in that episode too.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't have fears anymore. But that's because I understand how life really works, not what I've been told how life works. I
Yeah,
understand how I work. Like, what is it to be a human? Like, how do I get all of my faculties working together? Like, how do I get my mind behind what I want, my emotions inside of like feeling the way I want to feel, and then taking actions so that I achieve my results? When you know how the world really works, and when you know how you really work, you know how to make the world work for you instead of against you. That's really is the ultimate freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me go to the next question.
Sure.
How does this differ from trauma, such as war or childhood sexual trauma?
Yeah.
That's a great question. That's a great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've actually healed all of it. Like we have gotten entrepreneurs. In fact, the one that I think of right off the top of my head, it still brings like chills to me. Is she was? I think she was. She was 4, and she was 4 years old. She's an attorney now. She was 4 years old, and her uncle had taken her into this house, like was showing her around, whatever, and he raped her, and she was 4. And it just gives me like, oh my gosh, like the chills. Her aunt came in on it and was like, oh, and then walked out. And then nobody did anything about, like, her aunt didn't save her. Nobody did anything about, they all kind of pretended like it just didn't happen. And, she grew up with this ultimate shame, right? Of that. But she became a super powerhouse attorney. When we freed her from that, it was like there was this darkness and sadness inside of her. And when we freed her from that, she was still her powerful self. She just didn't have the sadness anymore. So she was like this light of power. And why I'm saying this to everybody is, yes, trauma is trauma, right? Meaning it doesn't matter, like that is traumatic, but so is somebody who grows up in a household and with a parent who's moody, because it's not in the situation, meaning, yes, that was trauma, but yes, that was trauma for that person too. So trauma, again, is not a morality of which one is better or more right or more wrong kind of thing. It's more like, no matter what the trauma is, it's trauma. We had one girl's trauma this is like, just to show you guys the difference, is she was 3 years old and she was playing in the fall leaves. And her dad came and took her out of the leaves. And she made that mean that somebody could take away her happiness. That's how traumatic that was for her. And that became that stopped her in everything. That she kept, like, as soon as it would get good, she was afraid that somebody's going to come and take it away, right? You build a company, somebody's going to take it away. No. So trauma is in the beholder. It's not in the situation. So all of that is traumatic. So whether it's war, whether it's, but it's all healable. What I want to really say the most is that it's healable. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
As a clinician, it's a little, I hear you, and I'm not disagreeing, but right, as a clinician, we do have, just to pay respects for this question, we do have war trauma, and war trauma isn't necessarily just perception. There's so much more, what it does to the brain, and then the symptoms that are along that coincide with it. And I'm only saying this because I know that there are also military wives that do listen to this, so I want to make sure I pay homage to that too. But so when we're looking at that type of trauma, and you're right, not one's better than the other. However, there are different levels of trauma. And when we're in my eyes, in my case, from working with firefighters, working with military, working with victims of rape, right? They might hear that, they might hear that and go, well, wait a minute, somebody being taken from their leaves and then being sexually molested or being bombed, in Iraq or Afghanistan, or witnessing somebody die, they can feel as though that it might not be so much, I don't want to say respected, but
no, I think what you're trying to say is that it's like we're minimizing it somehow. Yes, but that's not at all what I mean. Yes. I mean, I'm trying to say is, each person who's had a trauma, it is so traumatic that they literally stop being who they really are, and they take on a persona or a way of being, a false self, to survive their life. And not one is like in because I've healed all of it, and I don't have one as more traumatic than another. If I were to put them in the room and they both went through the trauma, both would be like, that was the most traumatic thing for me. Like throw up traumatic, like really like get rid of all, like literally like gross, like kind of like things that they need to get out. So I know it's different than what I would say that people would think in society, but I will say that whatever is stopping you, here's all I would say to that, because I'm not trying to be right in all of it. All I want to say is that
I love you, Mia.
yeah, no, I know. I'm not hung up on it in any way, but in that regard. But what I want to say the most is that I just want people to know that it's totally healable. Like
Yes.
if like I mean, we've seen it all. I mean, we've seen people split into a different split personality in order to survive, because, the more traumatic that they keep having the trauma, they'll tend to want to split as a way to try to cope in that environment. So I'm not saying there isn't degrees of like where somebody who's, keeps having that happen. We had one woman who she was sexually abused by her older brother till she was 13.
Yeah.
Like that's not one time. Since she was 4. I'm not saying that is not like the length of that didn't have a huge effect, but I will tell you this, because I've witnessed every healing. She went through that healing, and I'm telling you, she was not the same woman. And so it's not a time issue, which is what I feel that most people get their heads wrapped around. They think, oh, if I had this much trauma, then it's going to take me this much the rest of my life to heal it.
No.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not a time issue.
Yes. I think I appreciate what you said too, is it is something that's healable. We can come back from it.
Totally.
And I also appreciate your perspective of, how we perceive things and how our children perceive things and where we get stuck at in life.
Yes.
Those were significant events from us. And a good amount of us do get stuck at that age, at that time. And then we do have that internal message playing over and over. I'm no good. I have to be this person to be accepted. I have to get this permission in order to feel loved. Yes. And so with that respect, absolutely. I totally agree with you that being able to go ahead and shift that mindset and acknowledge that, our brain isn't fully developed till the age 25. And so we are living in that subconscious, watching what's being modeled for us, watching when we're loved and what determines, us being disconnected. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Mia, I want to make sure I respect your time too. Sure. Where can we find you? So for those that have had aha moments and we've had so much great feedback, where can we find you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm on both of those for sure. But I would say like if you haven't had my book, definitely read my book. It will show you everything I'm talking about inside it. It's the book I wish somebody had given me at birth. Like it's like the manual. I wish it really will tell you everything about life and how you work. So you can download it for free. It's if you go to miameantformorebook.com and just put in the password, because it's only available there for free. Put in free book, capital F, and then free book. You can download it for free. One of the things that if you want more support after you've read the book and you're like, oh, wow, this really resonates. We have every 2 months, we do a 5-day challenge that is, so it's how to stop self-sabotage, know your worth, and be able to charge for it. And
this group needs that.
I will tell you, we don't do it like a regular challenge. We're on Zoom. It's you're seen and heard, is very intimate. You get so much from that challenge. But the intention of the challenge is to help you now go live the book. So it really is like a challenge. It's a deep dive into, wow, this is great. Now, how do I live that? We show it to you. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Mia, thank you so much for jumping on and being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks so much what you're doing and everything for families. And I'm just so excited. I love what you're doing and what you're up to. So good for you for helping moms. And I just think that's so important. Like what an important role do we have as being a mother is huge.
Amen to that.
Right?
Amen to that.
And marriages and everything. Yeah. Everything you're doing for marriages, it's just incredible, really awesome. So kudos to you.
You
Yeah.
too. Badass attracts
Yeah,
badass.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
honey.